friends. This time, we will talk about numbers in English as a basis for communicating. Our hosts this time are Mike and Angela. Happy listening.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into something that might seem pretty basic at first, English numbers.
Yeah, use them every day, right?
Exactly. But trust me, there's more to these digits than meets the eye. We'll be exploring the quirks, the patterns, even a bit of the history that make English numbers so fascinating. Our guide for this journey is an article called English Numbers, How to Count in English, from EnglishClass101.com.
Get ready to see 1, 2, 3 in a whole new light.
Okay, so the article kicks off with what it calls the building blocks, the single-digit numbers 0 through 9.
Right, like the foundation of the whole system.
And they even have a fancy name, cardinal numbers.
Did you know that?
Honestly, no, but I like it. It sounds important, you know?
It does, doesn't it? But it makes sense. Those single digits, they're the atoms of the number world. You build everything else from there.
So true. So we start with our atoms, then we move on to counting by tens, 10, 20, 30, all the way to 100. And that's where the English language starts to show us patterns, right?
Absolutely. And it's that predictability that helps us make sense of larger numbers. You hear echoes of those single digits, 20, 30, 40.
Yeah, you can totally hear it. That Lottie sound, it's like a code.
Exactly. Once you understand the code, you can unlock any number.
But then we get to those teenage rebels, 11 through 19. Why do they have to be so different?
Ah, right. It's like they're intentionally breaking the rules. 11 and 12, well, they're just off doing their own thing. But then you've got 13, 15 clinging to their unique forms.
It's so strange when you think about it.
But there's a reason for that. Those quirks probably have roots in older forms of English, even Germanic languages. 11 and 12, for instance, might come from words meaning 1 left over and 2 left over after 10, that is.
Whoa, really? That's so cool. Like these numbers have secret histories, just hidden in plain sight. It makes you wonder, do other languages have their own rebellious numbers?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, comparing number systems across different languages, it's like opening a window into their history, their evolution. Some cultures, for example, use base 20 systems.
Base 20.
Yeah, they group things in 20s instead of 10s. Leads to some pretty interesting number words and counting patterns.
Wow, okay. My mind is officially blown. I'm already looking at English numbers differently.
Mm-hmm.
But before we go global, let's get back to the basics. The article talks about those numbers between the tens, like 47 or 83. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Tens number plus the number from 0 to 9.
Yep, super simple. And that simplicity, that's key to the system's elegance. You know, it's not just about memorizing a random list of words. It's recognizing that underlying logic.
So you can apply it to build a and y number no matter how big.
Exactly. And that brings us back to those cardinal numbers we talked about, those single digits. They really are the foundation for everything. It's all connected.
Okay, I'm ready for the hundreds now.
Yeah.
100, 200, 300.
And guess what? The pattern we saw with the tens, it just keeps going. Hundreds, thousands, millions, it all builds on that same logic.
So like the article said, 820, 203, you can almost hear the rhythm, right? It's almost musical.
Totally. And that's what makes it so easy to grasp. But of course, numbers aren't just about counting. Think about phone numbers, for example.
Oh, yeah. 3 digits for the area code, then 3 more, then 4. And we even shortened 0 to O just to make things faster.
Exactly. We've adapted the system to fit specific needs. It's almost like a secret code we all understand.
Speaking of everyday uses, what about shopping? Prices, quantities, you can't get away from numbers.
Nope, you need them. Imagine trying to navigate a store without numbers. How much is this? How many do you want?
It would be chaos.
Total chaos.
Numbers really are everywhere, aren't they? It's like they're holding our world together.
The invisible framework, yeah.
And we probably take them for granted most of the time.
Most definitely. But that's what we're here to change, right?
Exactly. So let's keep diving deeper into this world of English numbers. It's amazing how we can go from buying groceries to talking about the evolution of language, all thanks to numbers.
Right.
This deep dive is really making me see them differently.
And we're just getting started. Remember those rebellious teens, 11 through 19?
Oh yeah, those guys.
Their weird forms actually give us a glimpse into the history of English itself.
You mentioned that 11 and 12 might come from 1 left over and 2 left over, right?
Exactly. It takes us back to a time when counting systems weren't as standardized as they are today.
Yeah.
Some cultures actually used base 12 systems.
Base 12, like grouping things in 12s.
Yep. You can still see traces of that in English. We have dozen for 12. And even the word inch might be related to, well, a unit based on the width of a thumb.
Wow, so these number names that seem random, they're actually like clues to how people counted and measured things, like ages ago.
Exactly, a linguistic time capsule. And when you compare English to other languages, you find even more interesting examples. Some languages have completely different ways of expressing numbers above 20, like they might use a vigesimal system, which is base 20.
Vigesimal.
Yeah, base 20, or even a combo of base 10 and D base 20.
Whoa, okay, that's wild. Makes you realize that our way of counting, it's just one way of doing it.
Right, just one perspective.
But even within English, there are different ways to represent numbers, right?
Yeah.
Like the article mentions fractions, decimals, percentages.
Oh yeah, this can be tricky. But they're all connected. Fractions, they're just a way of expressing part of a whole.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Like cutting a pizza into equal slices, right?
Exactly. Each slice is a fraction of the whole pizza.
Makes sense. So how do decimals fit in? Those always confuse me, honestly.
Decimals, think of them as an extension of the place value system we use for, whole numbers. Instead of tens, hundreds, thousands, we've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on. It lets us express those quantities that are smaller than one.
So it's like zooming in on the number line.
Yeah, you got it. Getting more and more precise.
And then there's percentages. Seems like they're everywhere. Sales, news reports.
Percentages, they're actually closely related to both fractions A and D decimals. They express a part out of 100. So 50% is the same as 5100, which is also 0.5.
Okay, I think I see the connection now. They're just different ways of showing the same thing.
Exactly. Parts of a whole.
It's like a unified theory of numbers.
Haha, I like that.
I feel like I can actually handle those math problems now.
Okay, knowledge is power.
But it's not just about being practical, right? There's a beauty to it. It's like elegant.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a symphony, all these elements working together. And it reflects centuries of human thought, innovation, cultural exchange.
It's amazing how something as simple as counting can tell us so much about ourselves.
Right. It's not just about facts. It's about expanding our perspective.
Seeing the connections between language, culture, math.
Exactly. And that's what makes these deep dives so cool.
I'm definitely seeing numbers in a whole new light. They're not just tools.
Nope.
They're windows into, well, everything.
I like that.
So we've gone from those single-digit building blocks all the way to fractions and decimals and percentages.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how much depth there is to English numbers.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And the journey's taken us through history and culture, even touched on, like, psychology a bit.
Right, how we think about quantities. But there's one more thing we haven't talked about yet.
Oh, what's that?
Symbolic meaning.
You mean like lucky numbers, numerology and all that?
That's part of it, but it goes even deeper. Numbers have had symbolic meanings across cultures for, forever.
Huh, interesting.
Think about the number 7.
Okay.
7 days of the week, 7 deadly sins, 7 wonders of the world. It pops up everywhere.
Now that you mention it, yeah, it's like it has this special power or something.
Right. And it's not just about mystical beliefs. Numbers can symbolize, abstract ideas, completeness, perfection, even chaos.
Whoa, okay.
They can make us feel things, shape how we see the world.
So even beyond what they do, numbers have this deeper meaning.
Exactly. It's like a connection to these bigger cultural stories. And think about how we use numbers in stories, too.
Sure, yeah.
Once upon a time, there were 3 little pigs.
He traveled for 40 days and 40 nights.
Right. Numbers give stories structure, rhythm. They tap into these universal themes.
It's like a secret code in our language.
Exactly. And that's what makes numbers so fascinating. They bridge the gap between, the real world and the abstract world, the practical and the symbolic.
This deep dive has really been an eye-opener. I've got a whole new appreciation for English numbers now.
Me too. And remember, this is just the beginning. There's always more to learn.
So to everyone listening, keep exploring those numbers you see every day. Think about their history, what they symbolize. You might be surprised by what you discover.
Keep that curiosity alive. Who knows what you'll find?
And on that note, we've reached the end of our numerical adventure. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into English numbers. Until next time, happy counting.